Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your daily NVIDIA report for Monday, June 2nd, 2025. Let's take a look at the charts. Start with the big picture. This is a weekly chart, goes back a couple of years, 2.5 years or so. And just to sort of backtracks a little bit, that it was about 5 weeks ago that we settled above this 4 or 5 month descending channel top that is now well below the market at 99.46. But it did at the time signal recovery back into the low 150s, 150.69, a 3 to 5 month target. And we've cleared 80% of it, I'm just guessing, in about 3 to 5 weeks. Now, initially we were expecting this, January high of 153 and change, but we've got these two spike lows. This is a bit of a head and shoulders topping process. Now we've taken out the left shoulder. It's a bit of a negating of the head and shoulders, but truly I see no reason to consider upward continuation, for instance, until we close above 150.69. But really, in terms of a head and shoulders topping process, let me continue diving into that just a little bit. I do like the angles against the neckline. If you can project the same angle off the left shoulder, we actually did close just above the right shoulder line study last week by just a degree. It was 135.06. We closed 135.13. So, in terms of a downside sell signal, are there any other kind of downside sell signals? In terms of a shift in momentum that could play out to the downside as we continue into later June. As I've said last week, that would come into play with a settlement today below the 133.15 2-week channel bottom. Until then, this is our base of near-term support. Near-term for me is 2 to 3 weeks out. With present volatility, we could perhaps by Friday's close, holding above 133.15, reach that overall objective at 150.69. The likelier outcome, though, I think, is over the next couple of weeks. Holding above 133.15, we can round up, make our way back. We've got the high that was put out on Thursday. We continue south on Friday. We did not test this channel support, but it is our downward pivot point into later June. Until then, this is our support. So you can buy 133.15 day traders, 3 to 5 day swing traders, and 1 to 2 week swing traders, because above which, over the next week or two, I anticipate the longer term resistance at 150.69. Now, working our way up today, looking for the chart, and there it is. I do have 139.19. That is the high settlement price that was put out on Thursday. That is the highest this market has closed since the April low. I also like it for a couple of other reasons. One is it's very close to Friday's high. Friday was, not an extreme low, but it was an important low, and if we happen to close above, Friday's high, which is actually 139.62, we have a buy signal. Also, a 5/8 upside Fibonacci over the last 2 days is in the 139.19 vicinity. So 139.19 is sellable resistance for, the day only. I would rather you sell a more decisive settlement below 133.15, and I'm talking really to 3 to 5 day, 1 to 2 week swing traders. If we close below 133.15, I do see this 117.08 to 118.84 area within a couple of weeks. I'll get to that in a moment. But as I said, holding above 133.15 will keep, say by the end of next week, this 150.69 area in reach. And on the way up, if we can close today above 139.19, that is the scenario whereby we could, by Friday's close, actually, this is a solid 3 to 5 day swing trade to the upside. Closing above 139.19 is go long into the low 150s that I would expect within the week. 150.69, meaningful longer term resistance. In other words, able to contain buying into July, and we can fall away from here. I don't necessarily expect significant bearish rotation, but I do think that following a test of 150.69, we can begin anticipating some variation of this area in the upper 110s. I think that is what is at play. It really would be this rising channel bottom at 118.84 and climbing. And yeah, this trend line will be converging with 150 soon anyway. So it really is this formation. Even if we round up to that 150 area on the weekly chart at 150.69 this week, this channel bottom that is climbing daily at 118.84 will remain intact. So that is it. Really, in terms of the 1 to 2 week time frame, you're buying 133.15, anticipating 150.69. In terms of the 1 to 2 week time frame, you're selling a settlement below 133.15, anticipating 117.08 to 118.84, where we could bottom out into July and round up again, round up into the lower 150s. We could trade inside of this kind of upper 110s and climbing and a lower 150s and slightly descending, for the next 3 to 5 weeks, for the next better part of 2 months. And certainly, if we were over the coming weeks to close below 118.84, that would be a significant downward continuation point as we move into the month of July. But there's no point in going there just yet. Let's take a look at other elements on the charts. I'm going to kind of rifle through. There's your 148.78. This has been an objective since, about 3 weeks ago. We closed above the descending speed line that is now 117.08. That was a Monday settlement price, and that was a 1 to 2 week target. We've yet to actually test it, and now it's essentially converging with the longer term resistance at 150.69. Anyway, this is a big area up here that, if tested, able to contain longer term buying. That is to say, into July and possibly beyond. Now, if over the next couple of weeks we happen to close above 150.69, then we enter another buy signal. This could be another 3 to 5 weeks, could take the better part of 2 months to 172.35. This is a channel top that's longer than a year in the making that could contain buying potentially through the rest of the year. Let's continue with the downside. If we happen to break or open today below 133.15, 129.16 is likely. That is the pullback low from about a week ago. If we close below 133.15, 126.66 is likely tomorrow. And as we continue, into next week, this 117.08 to 118.84 area. This is a solid zone, an objective, a 1 to 2 week target if we close today below 133.15. Until then, if you're a 3 to 5 day swing trader or a 1 to 2 week swing trader, I see no compelling reason to be short NVIDIA unless we close below 133.15 or unless we test 150.69. Now, inside of that, we do have a pivot point, as I mentioned earlier, at 139.19. And so if you're not able to buy 133.15, you can buy a settlement above 139.19 that should, within just 2 or 3 days with present volatility, yield that upper 140s, low 150s longer-term resistance. But continuing, with the downside, 126.66, I don't show it anywhere, but it is a rising 1/3 speed line that is climbing. It can contain session weakness on the way down. I do see a settlement below 133.15 as a short sale opportunity. At the very least, if you don't play the short side of the market and you're long right now, anticipating the low 150s, my suggestion is violating 133.15, which is to say a settlement today below 133.15, is your indication to exit that long position. Cover the long position. And if you play both sides of the market, you can play the short side below 133.15. That might mean, for instance, reaching for 120 strike out of the money puts that don't expire for at least a couple of weeks or so. Trying to think, is there anything else to say? I don't think so. Just a reminder, all the minor points have been carefully chosen. They all have meaning. 134.95, is this channel top of the inside channel structure on the weekly chart. It's very soft. I would just use it for day trading. I would not hinge on that on a daily basis. I do think the real emphasis is this structure at 133.15, above which this level, 148.78 to 150.69, likely by the end of next week. And if we close below 133.15, just the opposite, the upper 110s over the same time frame. Please click like, share, subscribe. Check out wickedstocks.com. Last week, short week, we put out a stock pick on Micron. We generally do 2 stock picks every week. We will this week. You'll be able to see it all by taking advantage of our 5-day free trial. So go to wickedstocks.com. Fill out the form. You've got 5 days. You will not be charged. And you'll see daily Triple Q, daily SPY, weekly Apple stock analysis, etc., etc., etc. I will be back tomorrow, of course, with Tuesday's NVIDIA. You have a great day.